A man who spent his childhood sleeping on cardboard in Manila, selling donuts and cleaning gyms just to get by, rose from nothing to become one of boxing's greatest champions, capturing world titles across 8 different weight divisions. Manny Pacquiao earned hundreds of millions of dollars, became a national icon, stepped into politics, and then saw lawsuits, tax troubles, broken business deals, unsuccessful campaigns, and personal struggles slowly erode much of what he had worked so hard to achieve. So, let's explore how the most beloved boxer in the Philippines found himself facing battles that even his legendary fists could not overcome. There is a certain kind of poverty that leaves a permanent mark on a person. Not the kind where you miss a holiday or have to settle for a second-hand car. The kind where your father is forced to kill the family's dog because there is nothing left to eat. Emmanuel Dapadran Pacquiao was born on December 17, 1978, in Kibaw, Bukidnon, on the island of Mindanao in the Philippines. He was the 4th of 6 children, and his family lived in such extreme poverty that his father was once forced to kill their pet dog so the family would have something to eat. Mindanao, where Pacquiao spent his early childhood, is the second-largest island in the Philippines and has long been one of the country's poorest regions. While the capital, Manila, offered wealth and opportunity, Mindanao was, and in many respects still is, a completely different world. Poverty in rural Mindanao was not simply a financial struggle, it was a fight for survival. Families weren't concerned about how they would pay for luxuries. They wondered whether they would have anything to eat before the day was over. When Manny was in 6th grade, his parents separated after his father had an affair, leaving his mother, Dionysia, to raise 6 children on her own. The breakup was not only heartbreaking but also financially devastating. As a single mother trying to provide for 6 children in one of the poorest parts of the Philippines, she had no government assistance to rely on, no welfare program, and no unemployment support. There was only the daily struggle to survive. Manny sold bread on the streets, the kind of work children take on when childhood itself becomes a luxury their family cannot afford. He also collected scrap paper to sell by weight and accepted any small job that could earn him a few pesos. When the time came to choose between staying in school and helping his family survive, there was never really a choice. He left school during the 6th grade because of extreme poverty. There was no backup plan, no safety net, only survival. At just 12 years old, after giving up any hope of a formal education, he committed himself to boxing and moved into the one-story home of his uncle, Sardo Mejia, in the southern Philippine city of General Santos. Although Mejia had no formal boxing experience, he would eventually become the future champion's very first trainer. The training was as basic as it could be. There was no modern gym, no nutrition expert, and no sports psychologist guiding the process. Instead, there was a simple homemade ring, battered gloves, and a dream that felt almost impossible to achieve. By the age of 15, Pacquiao had already earned a reputation as one of the country's top junior boxers and regularly fought in a public park in General Santos. Those park bouts were fierce and largely unregulated, with spectators placing bets on the results while fighters took home whatever money the crowd decided to give them. It was in those dusty outdoor rings that Pacquiao developed the style that would later define his career: relentless pressure, lightning-fast hand speed, and an unshakable refusal to back down regardless of how much punishment he took. Even so, the young fighter knew that General Santos could only take him so far, and he set his sights on something much bigger. So, he secretly boarded a ship heading to Manila. It wasn't a planned trip with a purchase ticket or people waiting to help him when he arrived. It was a desperate risk taken by a 14-year-old boy who believed the capital city, where dreams were either realized or crushed, offered his only chance at a better future. After reaching Manila, he slept on cardboard boxes. The cardboard was not symbolic, it was real. The streets became his bedroom, and building entrances became his shelter. In the mornings, he sold donuts to commuters and office workers for just a few pesos, and he cleaned boxing gyms in exchange for the opportunity to train, scrubbing floors and washing equipment while continuing to sharpen his skills and climb the boxing ranks. At just 14 years old, Pacquiao was living on the streets of Manila, working construction jobs, and constantly choosing between buying food for himself or sending money home to his mother. Every peso he earned forced a decision: eat that day or make sure his mother could. Many times, he chose his mother, leaving himself to go hungry. That was the harsh reality Manny Pacquiao came from. That was the foundation upon which everything else in his life was built. The following year, at only 16 years old, Pacquiao turned professional and made his official junior flyweight debut in 1995. His first professional fight took place on January 22, 1995, against Edmund Ignacio. Pacquiao won by decision, earning what would seem like very little by Western standards, but to him it was more money than he had ever possessed at one time. The journey that followed was far from easy or guaranteed. 3 years later, in 1998, he captured the WBC flyweight title, his first major world championship, by defeating reigning champion Chache Sasakal. Still barely out of his teens, he had already become a world champion. The victory sent shockwaves across the Philippines. A young man from the slums, a school dropout who had once slept on cardboard boxes, was now holding a world title. It was an unforgettable story, but success arrived quickly and brought new risks. The same hunger that had fueled Pacquiao's rise also led him to take dangerous chances. Earlier in his career, in 1996, he stepped into the ring against Rustico Torre Campo. Torre Campo, who had only 5 knockouts on his record, was not viewed as a major threat. However, he landed several clean shots and stopped Pacquiao with a knockout in the 3rd round, handing him the first professional defeat of his career. For a fighter who had risked everything on boxing, with no education and no alternative path to rely on, that loss meant far more than just another mark on his record. It threatened everything he had worked for. Many fighters would have fallen apart after such a setback, but Pacquiao responded by putting together an incredible 15-fight winning streak. During that run, he captured the WBC flyweight title by defeating reigning champion Chache Sasakal. The streak restored both his confidence and his reputation. Promoters began taking notice, and the Filipino media started celebrating him as a national hero. Then another devastating setback arrived. In 1999, Pacquiao faced Medgon Singsurat in the second defense of his world title at just 21 years old. Singsurat entered the fight with a perfect 18-0 record and was the same age Manny had been when he won his first world championship. The fight was expected to confirm Pacquiao's place as the dominant champion in the flyweight division, but instead it had the exact opposite effect. Despite controlling the early rounds, he was once again knocked out in the seemingly cursed 3rd round, losing his world title less than a year after winning it. The trend was becoming alarming. Pacquiao would come out fast, overwhelm opponents with his speed and relentless output, only for everything to unravel in the 3rd round. One perfectly timed punch would change the fight, send him crashing to the canvas, and cost him the championship. Most fighters would never recover from suffering 2 knockout defeats before the age of 22, but Pacquiao was anything but ordinary. He rebuilt his career, moved up in weight, and that is where the most extraordinary chapter of his story truly began. While most boxers spend their entire careers in a single weight class, even moving up one division is usually considered a major gamble. Pacquiao would eventually accomplish what almost no one believed was possible by winning world titles in 8 different weight divisions. He continued piling up victories, and before long, the boxing world could no longer ignore him. The wins kept coming, the championships continued to grow, and although the weight classes changed, the outcome remained the same. Over an extraordinary 25-year career, Pacquiao dominated elite competition, becoming an 8-division world champion, a lineal champion in 5 separate weight classes, and the only boxer in history to win recognized world titles across 4 different decades. By 2015, his 25 pay-per-view appearances had generated more than $1 billion in revenue. Take a moment to appreciate that figure. $1 billion. For someone who had once been forced to choose between feeding himself and sending money home to his mother, the financial rise was almost beyond belief. Along the way, Pacquiao defeated 22 world champions, including Juan Manuel Marquez on 2 occasions. He also earned victories over David Diaz, Oscar de la Hoya, Ricky Hatton, Miguel Cotto, Joshua Clottey, Antonio Margarito, Shane Mosley, Brandon Rios, Timothy Bradley twice, Chris Algieri, Jesse Vargas, Lucas Mathis, Adrian Broner, and, most recently, Keith Thurman. Several of those opponents, De La Hoya, Hatton, Cotto, and Mosley, were already established legends by the time they stepped into the ring with Pacquiao. He didn't simply defeat them, he dominated them. Pacquiao made boxing history as the first fighter ever to capture world titles in 8 different weight divisions, winning a total of 12 major world championships. In 2009, he was also named one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people, recognized not only for his achievements in boxing but also for the impact he had on the Filipino people. That honor represented far more than athletic success. Pacquiao became living proof that even the deepest poverty could be overcome. Whenever he fought, He became a symbol of national pride. Crime rates across the Philippines reportedly dropped during his fights. This wasn't simply a myth or an exaggeration. Police recorded noticeable declines in criminal activity as streets emptied and entire cities fell silent except for the sound of televisions broadcasting his bouts. The nation seemed to pause as everyone watched Manny fight. Even criminals were said to put everything on hold so they wouldn't miss the action. But as the fortune grew and his fame reached unimaginable levels, Manny Pacquiao slowly began to undermine his own success. Manny Pacquiao's newfound wealth hit him like a runaway truck with no brakes. A string of major victories transformed him into a rich superstar who embraced partying, gambling, and a reputation for chasing women. The young man who had once struggled to choose between feeding himself and sending money home to his mother was now surrounded by excess. The change was not slow or measured. It happened quickly, completely, and with damaging consequences. "There was a problem in our family because the fame went to my head," Pacquiao later admitted. "I knew how to gamble. I knew how to drink. A lot of girls, things like that. This was far more than occasional indulgence. It became an entirely different way of life." Manny immersed himself in endless parties, heavy drinking, compulsive gambling, and womanizing. The celebrations became legendary. The alcohol was a constant presence, the gambling turned into an obsession, and women were always part of a lifestyle. He also became deeply involved in cockfighting. In the Philippines, cockfighting, or sabong, is a long-standing cultural tradition, but Pacquiao took his passion to another level. He owned thousands of fighting roosters and even built large, specialized facilities to keep them. He regularly wagered enormous amounts on individual cockfights, sometimes losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in just one afternoon. The addiction was never really about the money. By then, he had more wealth than he could reasonably spend. It was the excitement, the rush, and the same adrenaline that had fueled him inside the boxing ring. Long nights at casinos steadily drained his fortune. Pacquiao frequently traveled to Macau, Las Vegas, and casinos in Manila, where he reportedly lost millions at the gaming tables. Friends and people close to him recalled watching him lose $100,000, $200,000, or even more in a single evening. When you're earning tens of millions from each fight, those losses may not seem overwhelming at first, but over time they became substantial. His gambling habits also extended far beyond casinos and cockfighting. Pacquiao placed bets on basketball games, card games, and almost anything that involved competition and action. At the same time, relationships with women outside his marriage increasingly consumed his attention, and those affairs were anything but secretive. In some instances, they were hardly concealed at all. Pacquiao also has a child outside of his marriage, and according to multiple reports confirmed by friends and close associates, he carried on an extramarital relationship with a well-known actress he met more than a decade ago. The actress was a prominent public figure in the Philippines, and the relationship had become an open secret among those in Pacquiao's inner circle. While his wife, Jean Key, was aware of some of his indiscretions, it was this particular affair that reportedly pushed their marriage to the brink. These claims were not simply tabloid rumors based on anonymous sources. They were backed by individuals who worked closely with Pacquiao and said they witnessed the relationship firsthand. During that period, there were even separate groups within his boxing camp, with some supporting his wife and others siding with the actress. The actress even attended training camps, turning the very place where Pacquiao was supposed to be fully focused on preparing for fights into something resembling a soap opera. Trainers, sparring partners, managers, and members of his team gradually split into opposing sides. Some remained loyal to Jean Key, the wife who had supported Pacquiao long before fame and fortune arrived. Others were drawn to the actress, whose beauty, attention, and constant presence contrasted with Jean Key, who was often occupied with raising their children. In a 2011 interview with the Philippine Star, Jean Key revealed that Pacquiao had planned to leave his family to be with the actress. By that point, the couple had reportedly gone 4 months without speaking to each other. 4 months of silence within a marriage. For 4 months, their children watched their parents live under the same roof while refusing to communicate. In her interview, Jean Key openly described the pain and betrayal she had experienced, saying they had even discussed living together. She added that although other women had previously been linked to Manny, even he admitted that this woman was different. She said the woman was kind and often spent time with the members of Pacquiao's team whenever he had a fight. The fact that Pacquiao himself admitted she was different showed just how serious the relationship had become. It was no longer just another affair. It had grown into something that threatened to tear his family apart for good. His marriage was hanging by a thread, while his finances were being drained by gambling and an extravagant lifestyle. The same man who had once guarded every peso and sent whatever he could spare to his mother, even while going hungry himself, was now spending millions with little to show for it. When relatives and people from his hometown turned to him in times of need, Manny, despite being one of boxing's biggest stars, often could not help because so much of his fortune had been wasted on luxury, gambling, and relationships outside his marriage. It marked the lowest point of his life. After finally achieving wealth, fame, and success, he realized he had still let his family down. That realization struck him during one of his darkest moments, sitting alone in a hotel room somewhere between fights, parties, and affairs. Then came the moment of reckoning. Pacquiao later recalled, "I was alone in my room, crying uncontrollably. I kept asking myself, what should I do?" During that period, he admitted he no longer liked the person he had become, describing himself as an alcoholic, a womanizer, and a gambling addict. His honesty about his situation was both harsh and absolute. When he looked at his own life, he felt ashamed of what he had become. The boy who had escaped the slums and overcome impossible obstacles to reach the top of boxing had transformed into the very type of person he once would have looked down on. Those closest to him said the change that followed was sudden and complete. Between 2009 and 2012, Pacquiao went through what friends and longtime associates described as a dramatic personal transformation. The transformation did not happen little by little. It was immediate, dramatic, and, to those who knew him best, almost impossible to believe. On his 32nd birthday in 2010, Pacquiao received a Bible as a gift, an event that would later play a key role in changing his life. Although he was raised in a Roman Catholic family, he publicly embraced evangelical Christianity in 2012, surprising his relatives, friends, and longtime associates. The surprise was not that he had become religious, since the vast majority of Filipinos are Christians and Pacquiao had grown up as a Catholic. What shocked people was the depth of his conversion and how completely he committed himself to his new faith. Manny later described a dream that deeply affected him, saying, "I was in a jungle. I saw a light brighter than the sun. It penetrated my bones and my body. Then I heard God's voice saying, 'Son, why did you